when I shut the door a little while later. I knew it was my mother and deliberately left without picking it up. Thankfully, she never called me on my cell phone, too afraid I'd be driving when I answered. Poor Julius looked a little forlorn as he sat in the window. Instead of his favorite smelly fish, he'd had to settle for tastes from my container of yogurt. You'd think he'd appreciate that I was broadening his food horizons. My yellow Mini Cooper was parked in the driveway next to the converted garage that had once been my home. I had stayed living there for months after my aunt died, feeling strange about moving into her house. But finally I'd accepted that she would want me to have the place, and I had moved in. I was glad for all the space, and now I just used the guest house to store the supplies for the retreat. As expected, the sky was white. By now I had come up with various descriptions of the exact level of cloudiness. This morning's was the standard issue: flat, opaque whiteness, no shadows, and light that would look the same all day. My house was on the edge of the small town, but even so, I was in downtown Cadbury in about 5 minutes. The fact that there was never much traffic helped. I had put on 2 retreats so far and learned a lot in the process. I now knew I couldn't run the retreats on my own. I needed to be very familiar with the program and to be prepared for any disaster that might happen. In the past, that had included murder. The meeting I was on my way to was part of my plan to be hyper-prepared this time. No longer would I depend on only one person to handle the workshops. Now I was going to have 2 people, Crystal Smith and Wanda Krug, and I was going to make sure I understood the process as well. I usually met Crystal Smith at Cadbury Yarn, the store she ran with her mother, Gwen Selwyn. But today, since Wanda was going to be there too, we decided to avoid all the activity at the store and meet at Crystal's house. Well, not exactly her house. It was really her mother's house, just like the yarn store was really her mother's business. I found a parking spot on Grand Street, which was the main drag in town, and walked down a side street that sloped toward the water. Cadbury by the Sea was located on the tip of the Monterey Peninsula, and the ocean was visible from just about everywhere. In this part of town, the houses were more like small cottages and were on top of each other with barely any yard. It made me grateful for the space around my place. The only open space was a small park with a beautiful old Monterey cypress tree. The foliage was a dark water-retaining shade of green, and, like all of them, the wind had shaped its branches into a graceful horizontal pose. I had never been to Crystal's house before, and had to check the house numbers as I walked down the street. The houses were a mixture of styles: pastel-painted small Victorians, craftsman bungalows with long front porches, and Spanish cottages with large arched windows and red-tiled roofs. There was no strip of grass between the sidewalk and street, making the houses seem very close to the narrow roadway. Crystal's address matched up with a sweet-looking dusty blue Victorian on a corner. It wasn't like the large, grand old Victorians on appropriately named Grand Street. They took up whole corners and had elaborate gardens, and also happened to now mostly have been turned into bed and breakfast inns. Crystal's place was a single story and much smaller, but still had some of the touches like fish scale siding and a bay window. A white picket fence surrounded the small yard. Even with all the cloudy skies and fog here, there wasn't much rain, and water was at a shortage. Most people either left their small yards to go to native plants, which was a nice way of saying weeds, or, like this one, had no lawn, but plantings placed around the yard filled in with wood chips. A pot of flowers brightened the bottom step leading to the small porch that ran up the side of the house to the door. Crystal must have been waiting for me because she had the door open before I'd reached the top stair.